Welcome to the 401k Marketing Podcast. Are you ready to be the go-to expert in the retirement plan community? Listen in as we share ideas, resources, and best practices that you can use to professionalize your firm, demonstrate your authority, and earn more 401k business. Hi, everyone. We are joined today by Eric Ryles, the driving force behind Judy Diamond Associates. And he and the team work with the largest 401k providers in our great nation. So welcome to the podcast. Eric, please introduce yourself.
Sure. Rebecca, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. Good afternoon to all the listeners. I'm Eric Ryles. I have been here at Judy Diamond Associates for almost 21 years now, straight out of college. And over the course of that time, I've done kind of every job they do here at Judy Diamond, from research assistant to marketing, to sales director. And finally, I've been running the whole thing now for about the past 15 years or so, focusing most of my time on developing new products that can take every part of the government's Form 5500, take out down all that 401k data and repurpose it into actionable stuff for our community, to prospect, to defend your business, anything that you want to do. We do analytics now, and I've loved every second of it.
That's awesome. So you know what every letter, number, code, reference, reading the tea leaves of what this might mean actually means.
Unfortunately, I do, and it makes me an absolute terror at cocktail parties.
Well, it's definitely no secret that the Form 5500, and there's like 600 plus thousand of them. So there's a lot of plans across America. And each one of them contains its own kind of unique recipe or unique data. So talking to our listening audience today, those proactive 401k advisors, growing their business, earning new plans, how can they effectively use the Form 5500 to prospect?
It's an excellent question. And there are a couple of different ways to do it. If you are lucky enough to have a subscription to either a product like mine at Judy Diamond, though there are other perfectly solid 5,500 data vendors out there as well. If you have a subscription to one of those tools, we've done a lot of that work for you. And you can utilize that data to track down plans that might be more receptive to taking your phone call. The problem with using the 5,500 as a prospecting mechanism is there are too many 5,500s. There were 610,000 401k plans with more than $3,000 in assets and at least one plan participant in the last year's data cycle, which right now is the 2022 data cycle. No one can possibly get to all of those companies. I work with, the biggest of the big guys, right? They're buying Super Bowl ads. Their names are on blimps. You know them, you love them, and they can't hit everybody. So it has always been a matter of how do you use this information to find people who might actually be in the market.
So in our prep conversation, you mentioned something that really I went, wow, that's very interesting. You said that every year, roughly 10 to 12% of plan sponsors are shopping their plan, which I think that's amazing to know from a statistic standpoint. So how can, advisors who are curious which one of those plan sponsors they are, it might actually be some of their current clients, which Absolutely. Is, that something to stop and talk about, or it could be, potential new clients. So in your experience, a lot of years now, Judy Diamond, what are some of those telltale signs?
Oh boy. So we'll once again take this from kind of both perspectives. If you have a tool like ours, or again, other tools out there kind of do some of the same stuff, or if you don't have one of those tools, we're going to talk about how you can just look at a company's form and kind of make some determinations as well. There should be something for everybody here. So, how can you tell if a company is likely to be shopping their plan? From my perspective, we use two very concrete metrics here in our tool at Judy Diamond, which is called the Retirement Plan Prospector. Those two tools are, we have a plan score, 0 to 100, and it rates the plan based on 7 different performance metrics. How are they doing in each one of these 7 categories? And coupled with that, we use what are called red flags of plan performance. The red score, the red flags and the plan scores work together in conjunction, and we have found that companies with a low plan score, like 60 or less, and 2 or more red flags performance are much more likely to be in the market. When we actually rolled our plan score mechanism out, gosh, in 2013, I can't believe it was so long ago now, we were working with a big financial services company. And we said, hey, we added this new thing to the tool. We think you'll like it. And they said, we think we might too, but we're not sure. So what they asked us to do was they said, it looks like you populated this for the last year. Can you give us the last 5 years of this? Go back. We're going to do regression testing. And that's what they did. So we gave them 5 years worth of historical data with these plan scores and the red flags. And they said, we think there might be some kind of correlation here between companies with a low score and a lot of flags and companies that we knew, clients that we had, and then lost. Let's see if there was something predictive in the data that would have helped us discover that they were in danger. And it turns out, yes, there is something in the data that can help you determine that. And again, it's if they have a low plan score and a lot of red flags of performance. The performance metrics we track we had to choose them very carefully because there's a lot of different kinds of 5,500, and some of them have more data elements than others. So we chose 7 elements that were on every 5,500. Those are the rate of return, the participation rate, the money flowing into the plan in the form of employee and employer contributions, change in those contributions year over year, as well as how much of the plan's assets are currently outstanding as loans to plan participants. Those 7 things combine. And what we do in our plan score is we take that metric and we compare it to every other active 401k plan for the same year. So it creates an apples to apples comparison out of data that does not compare well against itself natively. And they found that, yes, there was this very high correlation of plans that clients they hadn't lost with a low plan score and a lot of red flags. So that's what I'd recommend. If you don't have a tool that has a plan score, the red flags are probably easier for an individual to determine on their own. Some of them we determine because we can look at all these forms at the same time. We have these big, powerful computers. They can look at 600,000 plans and 80 data elements each, and they can tease out the information. If you're looking at one of these forms, you want to go, there's a section called compliance questions. If it's a short form you're looking at, I think it's on page 2. If it's a form with a Schedule H or Schedule I, the compliance questions will be on that form. But the compliance questions are a great place to go to know if there's a red flag. Did the company have to issue corrective distributions last year? Did the company fail to transmit contributions to the service provider in a timely fashion? God forbid, was there a plan lost due to fraud or dishonesty? That is not often checked off yes, but when it is, that's a hot lead.
I like how your list that you just went through for the score is quantitative and qualitative. So it's different than like what you just mentioned on like corrective distributions. Because I feel like if you're, God forbid, that plan sponsor who has correct, it's like the wolves descend on you. Like, oh my goodness, you're you're flailing in the sea. But if if your employer contributions change from one year to the next, well, if it's up or down, generally something happened within the business, and that in itself is a conversation. Like, hey, let's talk about your tax liabilities. Like, let's talk about plan design. Let's talk about vesting schedules. Let's talk about different ways that we can reward your top talent, keep your great employees, and then at the same time, as a business benefit, you're saving for your own retirement. So it's a different mental shift than just like, oh God, you forgot to remit a payroll. Heaven forbid.
And I think something that you mentioned there, I want to circle back to, because I think that's something that we forget a lot. That the whole point of our industry is to be a benefit to the employees who are participating in the plans to help them save for retirement so that they can retire. And it is a tool to attract and retain talent. If you're, going out to the workforce and you're looking at offers from 2 different companies, and one of them has a 401k plan and one of them doesn't, that weighs very heavily. 401k is, it's not quite universal, but for a lot of people, that's kind of the table stakes minimum of what they want out of a job before they're going to commit to it. So you really got to have one.
Totally agree. Let's switch gears and talk about client retention. So obviously critical for retirement plan advisors and kind of holistic business success. You got to have good client retention numbers, sticky clients.
Yep.
And you talked about the report, which I think is awesome. So how can Judy Diamond reports help retirement plan advisors protect their business?
Client retention, I think maybe it's because of inflation, but I think a client in the hand is now worth like 8 in the bush. Like the numbers are really going in favor of clients in hand. You want to retain those guys. There are a lot of discrete things that our tool can do to help with that. They mostly fall broadly into the same category though. And that category is keep your client informed. Think about it this way. If you're listening to this, you probably have several clients, 20, 30, depending on your practice. You could have a lot of different clients. Each one of those clients only has one 401k advisor, and that's you. And your whole job is to know the 401k industry and to know how to get these plans set up. But it's like the smallest part of their job. It's an important part, but they're probably only thinking about that K plan, 2, 3 times a year. So you want to make sure that when they're thinking about it, one, they can have easy access to you. You need to be the expert there for them to help them understand what's going on. And so you can use a tool like mine, or again, like some others as well. And you can, when you're talking to them, you can say, hey, we always try to keep tabs on you guys and what you're doing in your plan. And we've noticed some things that we want to talk about. We noticed that year over year, your contributions per participant went down. Is there something we can do to address that? We know that can lead to employee dissatisfaction. They go, oh, yeah, okay. Also, letting them know, kind of what the firm down the street that looks like them is doing as well, because they don't have access to that information, but you probably do. So making sure that you can be there for them. The trick to retaining a client is, I think, to a certain extent, is the same trick to getting a client, or rather, getting a referral. If you have one client who is referring you to a potential new client, they're not going to say, you need to try my 401k advisor. Their fees are so reasonable. That's not a sentence that you hear very often. You hear, you got to try my guy because he knows everything about everything and he can help you set it up. Or you got to try my girl because when we had an issue with participation rate, she came in, she ran these great education sessions, she got everybody enrolled, and now we're at 100% participation and everything's cool. Those are the kinds of things that advisors need to be bringing to their clients. The reason that people go shopping, for the most part, one thing I can tell you that it's not because the rate of return. I talk with a lot of people who get really hung up on a rate of return as a metric. And it is one of the 7 that we evaluate when we're calculating plan score. But it's the one that we weight least highly. It's no secret that plan investment menus are so homogenized now. Everybody's got a set of target date funds. And guess what? The one from over here, the 2035, is kind of the same from the one from over here for 2035. They're not that different. They're both going to have some Apple. They're both going to have some Alphabet stock. So the rate of return itself is not an indicator, really, of if a company is going to move. Fees are part of it, but it's ease of access. And do they like working with you? Are you easy to get in touch with? Do you respond to them in a timely fashion? Don't be a hassle for them. That's I think the best. After 20 years of working with 401k salespeople, I think that's the best advice that I'm capable of giving. Make it easy for your clients to work with you.
Awesome. This is a really weird question. I've always actually wanted to know, is Judy Diamond a real person?
Yes, Judy Diamond is a real person. That is, I think, the question that I've been asked most often over 20 years here. Is there really Judy Diamond? There is. She is retired. Last time I spoke with her, she was trying to write a book about the beers of the world.
Oh, she sounds like fun.
She was a tremendous lady to work for, and I miss working for her and with her every day. She started the company, little known Judy Diamond story, when the ERISA Act was passed in 1974, she was working at the Department of Labor. She wasn't a government employee, but they had extra office space that they were renting in the building. And she was there doing something else entirely unrelated. And she realized, oh, hey, there might be lawyers and stuff that need these Form 5500s that are now being created. And at the time, in like the mid 70s, you had to be on site. You had to submit your request in person at the Department of Labor to their records disclosure room to get the form. So she realized, hey, I'll start a document retrieval service for lawyers who need access to these forms. And that was what she did. She'd take the phone call, she'd walk downstairs, give the records room an EIN and plan number, and then she'd pull the document and she'd mail it off to the lawyers. And that became the ERISA Red Book, which some of your listeners might be familiar with.
Yeah.
After a couple of years of doing that, I want to say 5 or 6 years, she sold the ERISA Red Book to Thomson Financial for a bunch of money, and she got out of the business. And as part of the sale, Thomson made her sign a contract, a non-compete clause, saying that she would not get back into the business for 5 years. Judy said, oh, no problem. I'm going to go be on a beach somewhere. Well, turns out 5 years and 1 day after the non-compete expired, she incorporated Judy Diamond Associates in, I want to say it was, I think it was 1986. I had the incorporation papers still in my office when Judy left and we kind of shut down our DC location. I took all the stuff out of her office, and I have whole binders of official JDA documentation that I'm sure my current HR department really would prefer that they had. But yes, so there is a real Judy Diamond. She's a real person. She was great to work for. And her son actually ran the sales department when I joined the company, but he had a different last name. And we would go out to trade shows together, and people would come up to us and they would have all these great stories about how they knew Judy Diamond from either A or B or C. And we just kind of listen, smile and nod, and they walk away, and her son looked at me and go,
Oh.
he's like, one guy's like, oh, I do it back in Florida, in California. And he's like, never been west of the Mississippi. And I'm like, oh, okay. And so that was always a very fun time.
I love it. That's such a kind. Thank you for sharing that. I never knew if Judy Diamond was a real person.
I never get tired of telling the Judy stories. We get together usually about once a year now around Christmas time. We'll get the whole staff together and we'll go out to do dinner somewhere in DC. At 20 years, I'm right, I think, about at the median of people employed by Judy Diamond. We have some folks at 27, 24, some guys at like 16 and 14 and 11, I think. Most of them knew and worked for Judy. And it was it was a real mom and pop operation, except it was just mom.
Thanks. That was really cool. And I loved that story. I never knew it. And, it's always one of those things you go, is this true? Is this real? Where does this name come from? Let's switch back.
One addendum to that, she hated the fact that she named the company after herself.
Oh, fascinating.
Hugely regretted it. Because we'd sit in the office all day answering phones, Judy Diamond, and she'd look up from me. Yes? She was like a little prairie dog, and she would get so mad, and she would tell us, well, can you just answer the phone JDA? And I'm like, Judy, that's not the name of the company. I don't know that I can do that. And she would, she was really upset. But at that point, there was just too much brand momentum to change it.
Yeah. That makes sense. That's funny because every time you would say, hi, thanks for calling Judy Diamond Associates. And then, so that's a good piece of information for anyone who's thinking about naming their firm.
That's right.
Because you're going to have to hear it a gazillion times over. Well, let's switch back gears to retirement plan practitioners. And I think this is just so important. But from your perspective, why do you think it's crucial that they have access to a robust data source?
It's a good question. I think among the many possible answers, I think the one I'm going to go with is this. There's too much for any one person to know it all. I think the thing that differentiates experts from amateurs is that amateurs think that experts know all the information all the time and can summon it with a snap of their fingers. I think experts understand where the data is, how to go get it when it's necessary to go get it, and how to interpret it. So we are last time you were at the doctor's office, right? They come in and they're asking you a question and you tell them, oh, I think I might have this weird thing. They have to go consult the medical journal or look it up. Oh, right. Oh, yeah, that thing. But that's fine because they know where to get the information. I think the repository of 5,500 data really functions the same way. And it's not just the 5,500 data itself, though, as a data source for prospect and for plan analytics. Like there's a lot of cool stuff that you can do there. What I really like to do with that information is I like to use it as a way to benchmark company's plan. And you can't do a benchmark without a big, robust data set. If you compare one plan against 5 plans, okay, sure. You look at one plan in comparison to 100,000 other plans. And now all of a sudden, the median values of that plan, especially if you're breaking it down further, become very useful. Mm-hmm. Data in a large enough data set kind of becomes its own truth, right? The law of large numbers tells us, every year we do this big 401k benchmark survey, and it's really every year I always get surprised by the difference in participation rate between different industries. Like you're thinking, oh, maybe there's an issue with the data and we're just not seeing it correctly, but it's the same way every single year. And you can find outlier companies all over the place, but when you smush them all together, the patterns emerge very clearly. So having access to big data it's more important now than ever.
It's a great segue. Can you tell us, Eric, about the annual report that Judy Diamond puts out every year in this free resource?
Yeah. We're just getting ready to release this year's report. I think our plan is to launch it in early April.
Awesome.
Kind of either at or near the Napa 401k summit, which I believe is in Nashville this year. It's typically where we launch it. What this is, and by the way, it's completely free. Right. So if you are hearing this and you don't have a Judy Diamond subscription and you've already tuned out, tune back in. This is the part for you. You can go to our website, judydiamond.com, and there's a big giant banner on the top, new benchmark report. You click it, you download it. It's totally free. It is sponsored by our friends at Mutual of America. Thank you, Mutual of America, for your sponsorship. What it is me looking at 610,000 401k plans from the most recently available plan year. What we do is we divide it into 27 different industrial subgroupings, and then within those subgroupings, 8 different size buckets. So manufacturing companies with 1 to 10 employees, 11 to 25, 26 to 50, and so on. The idea is to fill up each of these buckets with enough companies that we can make these meaningful comparisons like I was talking about a moment ago. Each one of the buckets has at least like a couple thousand because there's so many records, right, guys? So the idea and kind of how to use this, how we've seen people use it. We talked about earlier being an expert and kind of proving your expertise to your client. This is a great way to do it. They don't know about this report, but you do. You can walk into their office and you can say, hey, I know we're supposed to do our annual review today and we're going to get to that. But before we do, I have access to this tool, this company. All they do is rate and rank 401k plans. I have no affiliation with them. I don't buy their stuff. This is just a free report I got from them. Here's a look at how our plan stacks up against the industry norm. So you are, let's say you're working with a wholesaling operation. Right. Great. You're a wholesaler and you've got between 26 and 50 employees. We go down the table. They tracked 4,110 companies that are just like you. Wholesalers, same size range. Here's what the average plan looks like for a company that looks like this. So your competitive set, average account balance is this, average participation rate is this, average employee and employer contributions are these. The idea is that you're giving them a whole valuable set because everybody loves to keep up with the Joneses. They want to know what their competitors are doing. And to circle back to what we said earlier about how this is a talent retention tool, to help their HR department understand, you've got a really good plan, especially compared to other similar looking companies. That's something that you can talk about in the hiring process as you're trying to attract the right candidate. It's not just, we have a 401k plan. It's we have one of the best 401k plans in our industry.
Mm-hmm.
And that resonates much differently with someone who's looking at, two potential employers. So the 401k benchmarking report, by the time you're listening to this, watching this, viewer, it should be out and available. Go to judydiamond.com, big banner, download the report now, click it, download it. And there's I think I made a whole video about kind of how to use the tables to find the industry,
Nice.
find the size, and then just kind of look across and see how your client compares to the norms. People can't get enough of that kind of thing.
Makes sense. All right. Well, Eric, is there any other questions that I should have asked you for today?
I think the one thing that we didn't cover today that
Yeah.
I like to cover, that I hear from advisors a lot, is how do I stand out?
Mm.
There are a lot of advisors calling on these companies. How do I differentiate myself from everybody else?
Mm-hmm.
And I think there are a couple of ways to do it. First and foremost, what we talked about earlier, you can't call everybody. So you start by being picky about who you're spending your time marketing to, especially if you're picking up the phone and calling them. You can maybe cold call, if you're a machine, 50 companies in a day, maybe, but probably like 10 to 15, if you have the rest of your job to do. So first, being picky about who it is you're reaching out to. And then once you get them, don't try to sell them on your service immediately. You can take that approach that we just talked about, how, hey, I work in the 401k space. One of the things that we do with all potential clients is just it's a free plan review, stuff that is authored by a third party, nothing to do with us. We just want to show you. And we were looking around because what you don't want to do is you don't want to get too big brothery. You don't want to say, I'm calling you because I noticed that your plan stinks. That's no good. They don't like that.
Oh, it's a very bad approach.
So what you do is you say, we're calling around, you may not know this. The recent 401k benchmarking report just came out. And don't say the Judy Diamond report because they don't know who I am. You do, and that's great. The plan sponsors don't know us, and that's fine. You say, there's a company, they rate and rank plans. It just came out. I'd love to talk with you about how you stack up against your peer group.
Great.
And to see if there's anything we can do to help improve your rating. And be friendly and be up tempo and high energy when you make the phone call. Because, and I tell this to my own sales guys all the time, if you're just on the phone, if you are in a bad mood, that translates. You can't hide it, guys. I know you all think you can, but you can't. So if you're going to be making phone calls or if you're going to go on a video podcast, before you do that, you got to get yourself ready. A trick that I have been using, I did a lot of acting and stuff in like high school and college. One of the things that we would do is before you go out on stage, find your favorite big up-tempo song and listen to it at full blast and dance around like a moron. It gets the endorphins going. There are biochemical signals that your body is looking for. One of those things is, and this is kind of really old school sales advice, smile when you're on the phone, because that just the simple act of moving the muscles releases some of the stuff and it can help pick up your mood and it elevates your speech to the people that you're talking to. So if you can hit them when they're ready to talk to somebody because you found them from a tool that allowed you to be picky, you get them with some value, you get them on the phone. Hey, this new thing came out and we thought you might appreciate a no obligation plan review. We can do it over the phone. We can do a Google Meet, no problem at all. And then if you're friendly and fun about it, those are all the ingredients that you need to be included in the RFP when it goes out. That's what you need to do.
Love it. Well, I hope everyone is smiling at the end of this podcast. Eric, that was wonderful, wonderful advice. Thank you so much for joining today. There'll be show notes at the bottom of today's podcast episode. So if anyone wants to reach out to you directly, is there a good email or phone number that they can reach out to you? How do people contact you?
Yeah. You can find me directly by email, Eryles, Eryles, at I think Eryles at judydiamond.com will still work. We're owned by a parent company now, ALM. So Eryles at ALM.com will also get to me. And of course, online at judydiamond.com. is the place to go for all of your prospecting and 401k analytics needs.
All right. Thanks again, Eric.
Thank you so much. My pleasure.
Thank you so much for listening to today's 401k Marketing Podcast. Click the subscribe button below to be notified when new episodes become available. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of our guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of 401k Marketing. The content has been available for informational and educational purposes only. We hope you enjoyed.